We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us, talking about violence against women. Tennessee ranking 5th in the country for the rate of men murdering women, which is a disturbing statistic. Sharon Roberson's with us from the YWCA, Executive Director there. And of course, we'll also have Heidi Bennett, Metro Police Department, with us. She's the Police Crisis Counseling Supervisor. And touching on the various facets of this, you can call us if you'd like to jump in as well. Is there a religious component to this? And what I mean is, in some of the traditional, religious teachings, there's still, you get married and you treat your spouse with respect and love, but still in some households it's considered that everything's equal until a decision has to be made, and then it's the man who makes that decision. Does that still exist?
At the heart of domestic violence is power and control, and abusers are very well schooled in what they can use to gain that power and control. So you can take religion, you can take money, you can take children, you can take pets, whatever you need to do. And religion is often used, and it's a distortion of religion. Yes. And one of the things that we have at the YW is an amending through faith curriculum that's specifically geared for men's group in churches. And it started off with a relationship with the United Methodist Men, and it spread beyond that because we want synagogues, we want mosques, we want everyone to get this message. One, that women are not property. Women deserve to be treated fairly. We deserve to be treated with respect, and domestic violence is in no religious order, no religious anything. That is just really a misuse of religion.
Yes. Okay. But there still are attitudes. Obviously, there's no religion that's worth its salt that teaches violence. But there can be religion that still teaches a hierarchy within the household.
That's very well true, but is that really the religion, or is that the individual using religion to have power and control over an individual? Those are two different things.
Yeah, you say it's weaponizing religion.
Yes, it's weaponizing religion. It's using religion in order to gain control over another individual. And twisting scriptures is really not what you should do. And I think that many ministers even preach this. It's just simply not the case. It's just simply not appropriate. It is, like I said, it's using that as a weapon in order to get control over a group of people, this being women.
Fortunately, a lot of churches in the community have recognized this.
Yes.
And they have created forums in their congregations, and they've invited people like the YWCA and the Domestic Violence Division to talk about domestic violence so that they can be equipped with tools to help their parishioners, their congregation. So yes, all of this is true. It has been weaponized, but we do have some pastors really catching up on that.
Yes.
Talk about, if you would, maybe what in a healthy household, how a couple should go about dealing with conflict. In a healthy household.
I think that you have to start off with a level of equality and respect. At the end of the YWCA mission is dignity for all. You have to have everyone in the house, from the children to the adults, to have a level of dignity and respect. It's not, if I give her something, I lose out. It has to be that equal footing. And until you understand that you don't have to control another person in order to feel better about yourself, then you're always going to have problems.
Equality, respect, good communication. I'm amazed sometimes when I hear that name calling is used a lot in relationships, and verbal abuse can be a precursor to other forms of abuse, and yet it's inside of our that language is in our music, and people talk to one another that way on the street, and what they don't recognize is that that's a very, very insidious form of disrespect in that communication. We've got to promote positive, healthy communication, and not accusatory, not you do this, you do that, because if you say you, of course it's going to put that other individual on the defense. Healthy communication is the key. It's definitely possible. We know it. It does happen, and it just isn't in this case. Like Sharon said, the crux of all of this is power and control and disrespect.
And we had an actor that spoke at our most recent national conference, which was here in Nashville for our Men Together program. And he grew up in a very horrible domestic violence household. His mother was very religious, and she used that to say that the reason this is happening is because we aren't doing right by God. The father, by his actions of being so physically violent, led this person, until he really went through a lot of therapy, to think the mother was a lesser person, because if he is doing this to her, then that means her value and her worth is not the same as his. And so that's sort of the dynamics of it. You want everyone to believe that you have a place that's superior to another person.
Do you believe right now there are, and I'm sure the answer is yes, in the community, women that are living right now that maybe when they answered that survey got 8 of the 11 questions yes, but not quite to the lethal level, but that are living in a really dangerous situation right now and have not reached out. In fact, some of them could be watching right now.
Absolutely. We get screen-ins. We do know that probably the majority of domestic violence is not even being reported.
Okay.
And when the police report comes, chances are there's already been a history there, a history that has shown some escalation. And finally, she's made the decision to call the police, and that's a very tough decision to make.
Yeah. Do you think at all the change we see in society through the Me Too movement, and that may be a little bit different than what we're talking about homicides here, but sexual, do you think that might empower some women to maybe come forward more now as they see times changing? Again, it's different, but that we just see in general things being maybe more open and acceptable to come forward with now.
Well, you know, I talked about the iceberg model, where at the top you see the true violent act, but below that is part of this sexual harassment and really degrading women. And I think the more really our society, both men and women, that are educated and understand that certain behaviors are not appropriate, I think it could only enhance things. I think because it takes men and women, because, you know, women sometimes support other women and think, well, why was she drunk at the party?
Right.
That sort of mindset has to change, because that's sort of the mindset of what's a man supposed to do if a woman's drunk but take advantage of them. And if you ask men in your lives, do you think that you would, you know, rape a woman that's passed out drunk? That's the question. Why did he do that? Not why did she do it? But we always gravitate toward, I guess, female blaming.
Yeah, right, and I've seen it firsthand, the Vanderbilt rape case and others. It's just, and just this past weekend, CBS News having the interview with the victim in that Stanford case. And she wrote that incredibly compelling letter, and then finally has now gone public and written a book, but talking about how, you know, there are people out there that believe maybe that a woman, if she gets drunk, well, that's licensed to rape, or and I'm not talking about men. I'm talking about other women saying, well, she got drunk. What was she doing? And there are others like, well, if you talk back or get into an argument with the man in your household, well, he has a right to pop you. And that just mind boggles me. And I'm not, you know, and I don't accept as an excuse that they went through this as kids and so they accept it. I'm sorry. That should be innately recognized as being wrong to physically hit anyone. Innately, and so I'm not looking for excuses on this. There needs to be an answer that's beyond, well, they saw it as kids, so they think it's okay now. I don't buy it.
Well, it makes women responsible for the behavior of men.
Right,
you know?
It's ridiculous.
And you know, if we get back to we're all 100% responsible for our own behavior, then we can look at what we might have done in terms of risk factors, because it is true that sometimes we can engage in behaviors that are riskier, but at the same time, let's look at the suspect. Let's look at why did he do what he did.
Why are we looking at the victim at all except to help her? There should be no looking at the victim, period. End of story. It should all be on the accused perp. Period. Right? And that's what you guys do.
Yes,
in law enforcement. That's where the focus should be. But you know what? You have juries made up of these knuckleheads that, you know, maybe look, there's a lot of jurors, obviously, because the Vandy rape kids, or students were convicted, as they should have been. But I mean, you have that on juries and other places.
So awareness is the key. And I think all of the agencies, the Metro Domestic Violence Division, the Police Department, the YWCA, the Office of Family Safety, all of us work together, and we are out in the community. We're happy to talk anytime to community groups about domestic violence and just breaking down those myths that are associated with domestic violence, because if those kind of attitudes keep are perpetuated or promoted over time, then we're never going to break that cycle. So we're happy to be a part of that.
Take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more in our final segment just about the help that's out there, the crisis lines and all of that you say you get last year. How many thousands?
5,000.
5,000 calls. Also, a couple of events coming up in October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so we can set that stage as well. And if you want to join us, we have time for a couple more questions if you want to call 737-7587. We'll be back right after this.